Joe San Diego from the Grid Network. Welcome to Grid Tonight. We're going to be on the air a little bit more frequently, shorter shows, but definitely bringing you the news that you deserve for motorsports. Kobe Lambeth and Adam Lemeries will be joining me shortly, of course. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll start with MotoGP. Marc Marquez, he is coming back for the Portugal Grand Prix and MotoGP this upcoming weekend. He's been out of MotoGP racing since the start of the 2020 season in Jerez. Of course, he got injured in a crash there, then he re-injured himself a couple more times, then a slow recovery. Pretty much missed the entire 2020 year. He missed the first two races of this year so far, but he's going to be back in the third round. A lot of people are anticipating him to come back, and they anticipate him to go out there and continue his winning and dominant ways. Of course, he has won the MotoGP World Championship and the Grid Ranking World Championship 2 times. Kobe, with Marc Marquez coming back, is it realistic to assume that he's just going to come back in and be contending for wins right away?
Well, Joe, Marc Marquez, it's definitely been a while since he's raced in MotoGP, but I do think he's going to be competitive right off the bat, and I know Honda's going to be very excited to have him return. I know since he's been out with his injury and recovering, they've really struggled a ton, and Marc Marquez has basically been Honda for the last several years, and he's really been the dominant force, winning all of those races and championships for the Japanese manufacturer. Yeah, I know Marc Marquez is really excited to come back, but Honda is even more excited to see the 6-time MotoGP champion make his return finally, and I think the competition should be very worried.
Some very good points there, Kobe. Especially, I think this year, we're going to see Marc Marquez. He's going to be racing against Juan Mir, Alex Rins, Fabio Quartararo, now with the factory Yamahas, and Maverick Vinales, looking much stronger, especially after that first race win. This is going to be a very competitive season. A lot of people have said that the reason why we had so many different winners was because Marc Marquez was absent, but I think this year, with Marc Marquez back, 100%, it's really going to tell how competitive it's going to be in MotoGP. With that said, are we entering a new era of MotoGP where it's even more competitive? Or was it again just a part of the fact that we saw no Marc Marquez in 2020?
Well, honestly, I think it might be a mix of both. Yes, Marc Marquez's absence was a factor in all of the parity that we've seen, and also it's been very competitive as well. And with the 6-time champion returning to MotoGP, I think it might take a minute for him to get back up to speed since he's coming off of an injury, but it would not surprise me if we see him rolling off wins at some point this season like the Marc Marquez of old. And it's not like Marc Marquez is like a driver close to his 40s. He's 28 years old. He's a young guy, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to be back to his dominant ways in no time.
One of the big things, of course, with MotoGP, it's a long season, but the competition is fierce. Yamaha, Ducati, Suzuki, all of them were looking really good in this last round. Honda with Marc Marquez, I think that's going to add another element. Expect him up front. Let's not count Aprilia out. Franco Morbidelli, I don't see him being a contender week in and week out again. A rough weekend, but if he was up to return to performance like he did at the end of 2020, he'll be hard to beat. Still very early, of course, it's going to be the third round of MotoGP at Portugal Grand Prix this weekend. And of course, be sure to tune in to Grid Live pre-race. We've got MotoGP, IndyCar, Formula 1, NASCAR, and Supercars. Very exciting weekend. 5 series from the Grid Ranking will be racing. And don't forget to follow the Grid World Motorsport League. Tomorrow we'll have a Grid WML update from Matt on Grid Tonight. Now let's join Kobe from the podium finish with more news. And he is joined by Adam Lemeries, our supercar expert.
Porsche factory driver Earl Bamber will make his return to the great race, the Bathurst 1000, later this year. He'll share the number 7 Ned Whiskey Racing Ford Mustang with Andre Heimgartner, driving for Kelly Grove Racing. Bamber has already experienced quite a bit of success at Mount Panorama, being a 2-time class winner at the Bathurst 12 Hours, with Stephen Grove, the co-owner of Kelly Grove Racing. Adam, what's the quality of equipment at Kelly Grove Racing? Is it the type of car where Bamber will have a shot at winning, top 5, top 10 finish, or finishing in the mid-pack?
I think he'll have a really good shot to finish at least in the top 10. He has a really good primary driver in Andre Heimgartner. like you said, Kobe, he has had a lot of success at Mount Panorama, and this will be really cool, especially for all the Porsche drivers and all of the international viewers watching the Bathurst 1000. It should be a really great race at Mount Panorama in October.
Yeah, definitely. It should be a great race. And in 2018, Bamber made select starts in the Repco Supercar Series at Sandown, Gold Coast, and of course, the Bathurst 1000. He drove for Triple Eight as Shane Van Gisbergen's co-driver. The duo had a great run, finishing 5th in the great race, the year when Craig Lowndes and Steven Richards claimed the top spot on the mountain. How difficult is it to come in as an endurance driver for a one-off drive in the Bathurst 1000? Also, have the cars changed significantly since Bamber's last Supercars race in 2018?
I believe the cars have changed since his last appearance in 2018. Being a one-off for him, I think with the number of practices that they'll have, I think he'll be a really good fit, and he'll get a lot of seat time, especially in the co-driver practice. And overall, this is a really good hire for Kelly Grove Racing. I believe this really was really great news overall in the supercars world, and don't be surprised if that team contends at least for a top 10 finish at the Bathurst 1000 in October.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen how hard it can be to come in race in the Supercar Series. You know, one off drive, and it really makes me think of the all IndyCar lineup with Alexander Rossi and James Hinchcliffe. Those are two very accomplished drivers in the NTT IndyCar Series. But when we saw them run the Bathurst 1000 a couple of years ago, the IndyCar stars really struggled to adapt to the heavy cars, and obviously the Supercar is a lot different than the IndyCar. So it just shows no matter how talented of a driver you are, you can definitely come down to the Bathurst 1000 and have a struggle. And I'm sure Alexander Rossi and James Hinchcliffe will like an opportunity to come back and redeem themselves someday. And for Earl Bamber, I think he'll definitely finish in the top 10, as you said. And we saw how he did in his debut with Shane Van Gisbergen of all drivers, and Shane Van Gisbergen is absolutely lighting them up right now in the Supercar Series. And I can't imagine the pressure of being Shane Van Gisbergen's co-driver or another driver up there battling for the championship. And the addition of Earl Bamber to the Bathurst 1000 grid definitely brings some additional star power to Mount Panorama. Look at everything Bamber has accomplished in his career. 2 overall wins in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 2017 FIA World Endurance Championship in LMP1, and he's also the 2019 IMSA GTLM champion, and all of that happened with Porsche. But he hasn't been able to win the IMSA Crown Jewel events yet, but he's been so close. Bamber has runner-up finishes in class at the Rolex 24 Daytona, the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, and the Motul Petite Le Mans. And this year he's running in the GTD class after the Porsche Factory GTLM program concluded at the end of last year. Bamber is driving a Porsche 911 GT3R for Team PowerPoint EBM. So Adam, here's my final question for you tonight. Why is the Great Race so attractive to such a highly rated driver like Earl Bamber?
This is one race that everyone in the motorsports world wants to compete in. Like you said, you talked about IndyCar superstars Alexander Rossi and James Hinchcliffe competing a couple years ago. There have been talks that some NASCAR drivers would like to compete at Bathurst for 1 year. Names like Parker Kligerman, who is a supercars fan, who tries to watch a lot of the races. I think it'd be cool one day if you had someone like Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, go across the pond to Mount Panorama and see how they would do against some of supercars' best. I think it would be a really great show, and the fans all across the world would be watching no matter what.
Yes, I think it would be very exciting. to see a NASCAR crossover down under, and I know with the current NASCAR schedule that would be really hard to do. And I know there's been rumors over the years of NASCAR trying to finish the season before NFL football to end the season like early September, then they have all that off season. And if that were able to happen, then maybe we could see some NASCAR stars cross over to supercars and run the Bathurst 1000. And as you know, a lot of the equipment is going to be, well, with the next gen car is going to be a lot closer to those supercars, so it won't be too big of a departure when the NASCAR drivers get experience with the next gen car, which everybody's very excited about. And actually, another thing, Adam, I think you have some more information about like what is so attractive about the Great Race. I know Supercars recently made a major announcement about the campsites. Can you fill in our viewers a little bit more about that?
Sure will, Kobe. A couple days ago, Supercars announced that all campground sites will be open for the Great Race, Bathurst 1000, in October, which means hopefully we'll see a lot more fans this year compared to last year because of the COVID protocol. To let the viewers know, I have friends that usually attend this race every year, and I believe that hopefully this year that they will be able to camp at their campsite and just have a blast when the supercars go back to Mount Panorama in October for the Bathurst 1000.
Yes, it's very exciting to see them open the campgrounds back up, and it just shows us that we're slowly inching towards normalcy once again. And once we're back to full-blown normalcy, race fans all over the world are going to be extremely happy. NBC Sports is giving IndyCar broadcaster Paul Tracy a reduced schedule this season in the booth. Tracy has been a regular, calling the NTT IndyCar Series races alongside Lee Diffie and Townsend Bell. He spoke to Norris McDonald, a journalist for Toronto Star Wheels. In an interview, Tracy said the move was a bit disappointing and surprising, but he couldn't really complain because the company has treated him very well. According to the Indy Star, NBC Sports provided a statement confirming that Paul won't be in the booth full-time this season. Despite the change, NBC promised that IndyCar fans should expect top-notch coverage to continue without any major issues. Going back to McDonald's report, he says Tracy's 2021 IndyCar broadcast schedule will start at this weekend's season opener at Bamber Motorsports Park, followed by the Texas doubleheader weekend, the Indianapolis 500, the debut of the Nashville Street Course, Laguna Seca, and finally the season finale on the streets of Long Beach.
That will conclude tonight's episode of Grid Tonight. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube. We'll be back on the air later this week with more program, and especially Saturday Grid Live pre-race, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on YouTube. I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching.